This is really a special day as we dedicate and have a ribbon cutting for our Safe Families Resource Center. We really want to thank Child Watch. We have a lot of people we're going to be thanking as we go through this, including obviously Patrick Dowd and the great work that they do. Let me first recognize a lot of folks, and I'm going to get in trouble because nobody gave me a list. So I got to do this by visual. I'll start with the President Judge. I do see our President Judge, Judge Manning is here. Thank you, Judge Manning. Actually, we have the Family Division, as we're going to hear from her in a little bit. Judge Clark, thank you for being here, Judge Clark. I did see Judge DeAngelis. I know I saw him when I came. There he is, hiding over there. Okay. I see Judge Reagan is with us today. Who am I missing? Oh, Judge Woodruff, hiding in the back. Okay, Judge Woodruff. I also would like to thank, there's a lot of thank yous that we're going to do. Any judges? Did I miss any more judges?
We have some guest judges. We have some guest judges from out of Mulligan.
Oh, Judge, oh yeah, I did see Judge Mulligan. Judge Mulligan?
We have some judges from out of
So Linda Kelly? Well, let me go through my thank yous first and do it this way, because I do want to thank the folks from the courts and the great work that they did, starting with obviously Judge Manning and his court administrator Linda Kelly and Joe Story, and former court administrator who worked on this, Claire Capristo. They did a good job on this. I want to give them a round of applause for the work that they did. From the Family Court Division, Judge Clark, Cindy Stoltz, and Beth Keenan. Thank you for your work. From our administration, nothing could get done without our county manager and the great work he does, along with Deputy Manager Steve Pilarski, Director of Facilities Doug Nolfi, Deputy Director Jim Reardon, and my Chief of Staff Jennifer Liptown. So I want to thank you. And also the National Council of Jewish Women, who have done so many good things throughout the years in the courthouse and throughout these facilities to make it better for children, better for families, and better from children. We're going to hear from her in a little bit. Lynette Letterman is here as well. Thank you, Lynette. As we said, the dedication of this resource center to make it a more friendly place and an easier place for children that are seeking protection from abuse orders to receive the services and the referrals that they need. And it includes a safe play area for our children, a safe waiting area for the victims and their children, and a separate space for defendants to check in, to avoid contact with the victims in private conference and interview rooms to ensure confidentiality. Child Watch of Pittsburgh, who does so many good things in this community, we're so lucky to have them, provided the bulk of the funding for this project, which was done in-house by a lot of our great facilities management folks who you've been seeing do a lot of good work around the courthouse and around the Family Division Court as well. So we're very excited about the work that they do. So with that, I am going to turn this over now to the board chair, a board member of the Allies. No, she is the board chair. The Allies board chair, who does a lot of great work in this community. We're very lucky to have the work that she does, and that is Ann Lewis. Ann?
Well, Martin, I sort of took the chair, but thank you, Martin. One of Judy's favorite quotes, which I think has been attributed to everyone from Mark Twain to Harry Truman to John Wooden, is this: "There's no limit to what you can accomplish, provided that you don't care who gets the credit." Well, regardless of who first came up with it, I know of no one who's done more to put that principle into practice than Judy Horgan. As anyone who's worked with her knows, she's about as modest and self-effacing as Donald Trump is. Well, Donald Trump? And there's been practically no limit to what she's accomplished over the past quarter of a century, with little more than her beautiful smile, a kind word, and a pocket full of dreams. Starting in 1992, when she was on the board of the Children's Home, she began to lay out the roadmap for a model advocacy nonprofit called Child Watch, with the aim of giving a voice to children in Pittsburgh who until then had no one to really advocate on their behalf in the arena of law and public policy. By setting out a vision and showing city leaders what daunting challenges children often face, by suggesting policy fixes and letting others take the credit, she quietly began to change the lives of children in Pittsburgh in a myriad of ways. Under the leadership of Child Watch, Allegheny County saw a complete overhaul of its juvenile justice system with a new facility, proper staffing to reduce the backlog and hear the cases, and innovative procedures for children and families at court. Thanks to the introduction of the video conferencing project, children no longer have to face the trauma of testifying at dependency hearings in front of people who have abused or neglected them or their siblings. It's easier and less costly to get testimony from expert witnesses in the health and mental health professions, and families with children in remote residential treatment facilities have more contact with each other among a host of other benefits. But Judy didn't stop with just the court system. She led Child Watch in partnerships with Holy Family Institute, KDKA, Mount Airy, and others to expand our community's network of foster care and adoptive families. She helped lobby to restore funds for preventative and treatment services for families and children after the Commonwealth cut tens of millions of dollars from the budget back in 2003. And of course, she helped pioneer the Safe Space Initiative about which you'll hear so much today about. Wherever a less fortunate child or family has been in need in our community, there you'd find Judy, leading the charge to ease their burden and help give them a better start in life. And of course, never worrying about who got the credit for any of it. Well, I think we all agree this time that she finally gets to enjoy the recognition she so richly earned, and to know the enormous love and respect we all have for her. One of the biggest influences in Judy's work over the past 24 years has been the great Marian Wright Edelman, who wrote in her book, The Measure of Our Success, and I quote, "Service is the rent we pay for being. It is the very purpose of life, and not something you do in your spare time." Judy's life has been the embodiment of that concept of service to the most vulnerable members of our Pittsburgh community, our children. And her legacy is one that will continue to be passed on child to child, family to family, down through the generations. We will always be in your debt, Judy. Thank you very much. And now I'd like to ask you to join me at the podium. So there's a pendant and a necklace, and on the back it has Judy's initials and date, and it's in recognition of Child Watch. Oh my goodness, that actually took my breath away. I'm sorry. I don't usually get emotional when I talk to people about children, and I had some things to say to you today, but I've got to take a deep breath. You know, I was always raised to believe that if you did a good deed and you got credit for it, it didn't count. So I think I'm in trouble. It seems like I've got to start all over again. But thank you so much, and thank you for being here, and thank you all for caring about children. You know, we all live in a world that has many troubles, But if we get together and stand up for children, I think no matter what, it's going to be a better place. So I'm indebted to you. And as best friends will do, gave me a lot of credit that really goes to many, many other people. So I wonder if everyone who's been associated with Child Watch in one way or another would be so kind as to stand up so that we can see who's really responsible. Allies for Children has taken the reins of Child Watch and taken it to great levels that we've never thought possible. So if Allies would stand up. Thank you. My hat is off to all of you, and you'll notice that almost the whole room stood up. And the rest of you, I know, are child advocates in your own way, so we applaud you too. So there are a few things I'd like to tell you. I don't want to make a big speech. The last thing you want to do on a 90-degree day is sit around and hear people say, thank you, thank you, thank you, but truly, thank you. So I would like to thank Judge Clark and the court for allowing us to come together to do this. We're having a party in their house, and I don't know whether, you know, if it happened in my house, it would be very disruptive, and I assume it is here. So big thank you to the court and to the judges, Judge Woodruff, our friend, and so many of others of you that we've displaced today. This is a working day here, and here we are, and we're all enjoying each other's company. So thank you for letting it happen. And thank you, Chief Executive Fitzgerald, for being here, and all of our colleagues and friends and my family. I adore you, and I'm so glad you're here. But I wanted to tell you that the purpose of Child Watch was to bring the community together. You know, we were to illuminate the problems of children at risk and then mobilize the community. You know, it wasn't rocket scientist, I'm certainly not smart, but it was bringing people together to face the problems that children had. And there were hundreds of people who did that from all over the county. I mean, we had moms in the North Hills who came up with 400 backpacks almost overnight when one of our partners, the Homeless Children's Emergency Fund, told us that kids didn't have anything to carry their things to school in, and they were being ripped off, and you know, terrible things were happening to them. And like that, somebody came up with backpacks, and backpacks. And then National Council of Jewish Women came up with pick-a-bags that kids could move their things when they were moved from foster home to foster home. I mean, I could just go on, and you know, if we could sit down at dinner some night, I could just tell you stories all night about what people in this community have done for kids, and it would warm your heart and say, you know, it's okay, because there are good people out there, and they're doing wonderful things for children. So, thank you. There's somebody special that I really want to acknowledge, and she doesn't want me to acknowledge her, so please don't look at her when I do this. But over there in the corner is Cindy Stoltz. She is a giant. She brought us so many issues that we have, in our meager way, helped the court with. And the most recent one is this. She came to a Child Watch meeting, and she told us that there were kids who come to this place, and they're in a room, I think the room you're in right now, and they are with their moms usually, sometimes their dads, and they've been abused. And there's been horrible domestic violence and X-rated stuff, and sometimes people are murdered, and just terrible things. And the kids are clinging to their mom's legs, and the moms had to testify in this room, sometimes with their perpetrators, also in this room. And the kids had to relive some terrible secret that they hoped nobody would ever find out about. And they're doing it in public in this room. And Cindy told us about these kids whose monsters are real and whose nightmares come in the daytime. And we couldn't sleep. We had to do something about it. So fortunately, Allies allowed us to use funds that were allocated for Child Watch to build what you're going to see later on. And it's really just such a moving thing. Cindy told us that the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania had talked about the violence against children and families. That is just, I mean, it's scarring. You know, when you hear about it, when you see it on TV, it disturbs you for a day. But when you live with
and it's your life, it's, you know, a horror beyond words. And we as adults, we as people who have responsibility to take care of these kids, have the ability to do something about it, and for that, you know, we count our blessings. So I had the pleasure of seeing the space that you're going to see, and I know you're going to love it, and the people here are really enjoying it. Beth Keenan, who is also just a person who walks on water and takes care of these situations on a day-to-day basis, and her staff, and they are people who come back to this place every day and hear these horrendous stories that would be nightmares to us, but they get up the next morning and they're back at work and they're face-to-face with it and handling it. So Beth, our hats are off to you. And we're so happy that not only this space exists for children, but the space exists for all the people who represent us in the community. They are first line. We're all taxpayers, but they are first line, and they are doing the heavy lifting. And our hats are off to you for it. Thank you so much. But I received this morning from Cindy's assistant, Sally, some reactions to what people have said about the space, which now offers private space for people to give their testimony, and private space where people can talk to their attorneys, and a place where they can seek aid right then and there, rather than going home and, you know, having to make a phone call and calling for help, and, you know, maybe the perpetrator is around, who knows? But it can be handled right here and now in this very space. I'm sorry, I'm so emotional about this, that you all have made available, and we're so grateful. And I want to thank Pam Golden and the National Council of Jewish Women. You are going to see the playroom today, which is just the crown jewel. It's a great thing. As you walk past it, I want you to think about this. In the space we're replacing, children came in, listened to their mothers, recanting stories that maybe they didn't know all the details. Maybe the children were just hearing these horrible things for the first time, and they had to be with their moms. But now, right across from where they're going to be testifying, there's a beautiful little playroom where the children can get a little respite from what's happening, and their moms can speak confidentially to their attorneys. Many of the attorneys pro bono, by the way. Neighborhood Legal Services, Reed Smith, other pro bono people that we are forever grateful to. But look at that space and think what an oasis it is for people in times of trouble. I wanted to leave you just with a little quote, and I promise not to read more than a sentence, but a friend of mine told me this, gave me a book by Reinhold Neubauer, and it says, "Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone. Therefore, we are saved by hope and by love." Thank you for allowing us to work together to make this a safe place for children and families. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy, and thank you for the work that you've been doing for many, many years, helping children, helping people, the most vulnerable people in our community. And now I want to bring up Judge Clark. She's going to be introducing video and why we have the need for Safe Families Resource Center. She's going to introduce this video. That's the administrative judge of the Family Division, who obviously knows this better than anybody, the needs here. I want to bring up Judge Clark.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Family Division. You know, in speaking with Judy this afternoon, I know she doesn't like for us to talk about all that she's done, but the reason that we're in this building is because of Judy Horgan and Child Watch. For those of you who have been around for a while, know that juvenile court used to be at 3333 Forbes Avenue, and it certainly was not the ideal place for people to feel safe and to hear cases. And so in October of 2000, we moved into this building the last week in October, and we opened for business in November of 2000. So it's been 16 years almost that we've been in this building. We've sort of outgrown it. When I came here in 2000, when we moved into this building, we only had 3 full-time juvenile court judges. And now we have 10 judges that regularly hear juvenile cases, and all 16 of the judges hear some juvenile cases at least once a month. So we've really grown as a division, and so we're ever grateful to Judy and to Child Watch for making this a reality for us in Allegheny County. So as the administrative judge of the Juvenile and Family Court in Allegheny County, I like to tell people I preside over a court where the common denominator among our court users is trauma. For the most part, people enter this division due to at least one traumatic event in their lives. So imagine, people are coming into our courthouse because their marriage is in crisis and maybe someone has filed for divorce. They come because they can't agree upon the custody of their children, and sometimes we don't think that's a big deal, but if you come and observe a custody trial sometime and see the effect that parents fighting over custody or the ability to make educational, medical, and religious decisions for their children, see how that impacts upon a child. They're caught squarely in the middle. They come, of course, seeking protection from abuse. And that's why we have this new Safe Families Resource Center that you're going to be able to see later. They come because child welfare has taken their children. They come because they are victims of juvenile crime. They come because their children are accused of crimes, and as a parent, they're worried about the child's future. And sadly, we also terminate parental rights in this courthouse. Children come here because they've been accused of committing crimes, because they are caught in the middle of their parents' divorces and custody battles, because they've been removed from their homes, their communities, their parents, their siblings, families, and friends due to abuse, neglect, or exposure to domestic violence. And so while it might be one single traumatic event that brings a family into court, in reality, many of the people that we serve have been exposed to a lifetime of trauma, repeated traumatic events, committing crimes because they are caught in the middle of their parents' divorces and custody battles, because they've been removed from their homes, their communities, their parents, their siblings, families, and friends due to abuse, neglect, or exposure to domestic violence. And so while it might be one single traumatic event that brings a family into court, in reality, many of the people that we serve have been exposed to a lifetime of trauma, repeated traumatic events. And overwhelmingly, our court users are poor. Disproportionately, they are African American. Many live in communities fraught with violence, without safe places to play or to socialize, without decent housing or access to healthy food. Too many of our children are being raised by single parents or grandparents or great-grandparents. And too many of our children have experienced the loss of a parent or loved one due to incarceration, violence, addiction, or premature illness. The need to recognize the trauma that our court users are experiencing and to make them feel safe has become a major part of the mission of the Allegheny County Family Division. In October of 2015, the National Council of Juvenile and Family Court Judges began a trauma assessment of our court. So NCJFCJ came in and they had people analyze every aspect of this division. The temperatures in the courtrooms, the humidity, how far the bus stops were, the signage in the building, what was on our website, how long it takes them to enter the building, how long it takes them to get into court, how the judges treat people, every aspect of this courthouse. And so the assessment identified many concerns within this department, the protection from the abuse department, that were not in line with our mission of becoming a trauma-informed division. So NCJFCJ made many recommendations for increased safety and awareness of trauma. So Judy thanked Cindy Stoltz, and really this new space was really her brainchild. She kind of conceived how it should look and what we should have. And so I want to thank Cindy for doing a yeoman's job and persisting about trying to get this space organized. And it is lovely. I can't wait till all of you see it. We are so proud of what it is, especially for those of you who knew what it was. You will be able to share in our joy, I'm sure. So thanks to the generosity of Child Watch, Allies for Children, Pittsburgh Child Guidance Foundation, the National Council of Jewish Women, and the Office of the Chief Executive, Rich Fitzgerald, we are well on our way to realizing the mission through the Safe Families Resource Center. With this new space, we will not only be able to process and conduct hearings on protection from abuse matters, we will be able to provide confidential space for victims of abuse to confer with advocates and attorneys. We will be able to complete lethality assessments, which is huge, and provide referrals for needed services. And thanks to the National Council of Jewish Women, the Resource Center will contain its own internal child waiting area. And most importantly, we will have separate waiting and check-in areas for plaintiffs and defendants and secure doors to increase the sense of safety as well as the reality of safety. So we're excited to introduce the Resource Center of the Family Division to you. I just want to say, we have sort of some unsung heroes in here, and I want to thank Beth Keenan and the PFA staff. This is a small but mighty staff, and the work that they do is grueling, and you know, it's Beth, I don't know how they do it, because if one of them, they're entitled to vacation, people get sick, so more than one of them is out, it becomes problematic to kind of process these cases and deal with what happens. And if you think, I talked about the trauma that court users suffer, but I didn't talk about the trauma that court staff sometimes undergoes. So just think about it, you know, you see these folks coming in, they're coming to get their PFA order, and sometimes they have an order, but that doesn't always, that in of itself doesn't always keep somebody safe. And so bad things happen. The results sometimes are not pleasant. And so when something tragic happens, they feel it. They feel the pain, they feel kind of the helplessness of, could we have done something else? Could we have done something more? Could we have done something differently? Why didn't we see and understand how dangerous the situation was? Judges feel it that way. Attorneys who work with the clients feel that way as well. So the trauma extends beyond the court users. It's the people that work here too. So it is my desire that our family division, the family division of the Fifth Judicial District, be known as a trauma-informed court where everyone entering this building is treated with dignity and respect. The Safe Families Resource Center is a giant step towards reaching this goal. And while the road towards reaching this goal is not immediate, thanks to the efforts of Child Watch, Allies for Children, Pittsburgh Child Guidance Foundation, the National Council of Jewish Women, too many NCJs in my life, and our county executive, I do have hope that it will happen. So on behalf of the judges, administrators, hearing officers, and the staff of the Family Division, I want to thank you all, everyone that had a part in making this happen. I want to thank you. You have our heartfelt thanks and appreciation. So we're so pleased. And so I'm going to introduce the video to you now. The video will, you'll see people interviewed, and it'll talk about why the importance of this work, why we have a need for this Safe Families Resource Center. So without further ado, we'll watch the video.
Judge Jennifer McCready-Staley's with us here as well. Thank you for being here, appreciate it. And we have a couple more speakers, and then we're going to cut the ribbon and go in and tour the facility. Again, we're so fortunate that we have so many folks in this community who work on behalf of folks, and the next speaker is no exception. She's been working on behalf of people and children in this community for many, many years, and that's Pam Golden, the Executive Director, Pittsburgh Child Guidance Foundation. Pam?
Good afternoon. I'm honored to represent the Pittsburgh Child Guidance Foundation, its board, and our board members, Bonnie Van Kirk and Willie McCain, who are here today, as well as the staff, past and present, our volunteers, donors, and partners. Our foundation is dedicated to improving the emotional health and well-being of children in Allegheny County. We achieve this goal by providing grants and collaborating with public and private partner organizations to implement innovative policies, practices, and programs. Today, the Pittsburgh Child Guidance Foundation is focused on mitigating the circumstances of families with children who are experiencing homelessness. As we know, the majority of domestic violence victims living in shelters are homeless. A decade ago, we collaborated with several departments within Allegheny County, as well as with the court system, including Judge Clark, to create Gwen's Den, on an initiative focused on families with parents who were incarcerated. We created Gwen's Den, an age-appropriate safe space for children who have ended up having to visit the jail. They were either there to see a parent or waiting while a caregiver visited an incarcerated person. With our work, our goal is always to put the needs of the child first, to think about the emotional impact that having to spend time at the jail or in the court system will have on a child for many years to come. We seek to mitigate the negative impact that these difficult situations will have on the child. We don't want to let the child be victimized twice. First, because of decisions and actions of the adults in their lives, then by putting them in an environment that doesn't take into consideration the trauma that they may have experienced or are continuing to experience. The Safe Family Resource Center helps to bring our mission to life. It transforms our words into action. We are pleased to have been invited to be a partner with our family and our friends and allies to bring this dream of safe, confidential space to the court system to reality. We congratulate Allies for Children, County Executive Fitzgerald and his team, the Family Court Division for having the foresight to make these important improvements that this new Safe Family Resource Center will provide. Thank you very much.
And finally, before we go to the ribbon cutting, when I got elected to county council back in 1999, that's a long time ago, I know I'm an old guy. One of the very first calls I got was from a woman, a good friend of mine named Lynette Letterman, asking me to donate county council space, very limited space that we had, for a child's playroom on the 4th floor outside the Gold Room. And we were glad to do that. So this woman's been advocating for women and children for many, many years, and it's my pleasure to bring up my good friend Lynette Letterman.
Lynette Letterman. I am a past president of the National Council of Jewish Women, and I am the chair of the Children's Playrooms in the Courts. Ever since the National Council of Jewish Women opened its first playroom in the courts, it has been committed to the Court of Common Pleas, to Allegheny County, and to the children and families we serve. From that first room 36 years ago on the 6th floor of the City County building, which some of you will remember, to the second room in Juvenile Court in Oakland, that horrible place, to combining them here in the Family Law Center, to the next room in the courthouse for criminal court, to the playroom in municipal court for domestic violence victims. Thank you, Lorraine Bittner. And in those 3 rooms, we see 5,000 children a year. And lastly, to this smallest but most impactful of spaces, we at NCJW are humbled by our role here today to have brought together Allies for Children, the court, and the county to create this safe family space, and then in turn, to be offered the opportunity to run one more safe, stress-free playroom for children. I would be remiss if I didn't thank Allegheny County Chief Executive Rich Fitzgerald, who as a county councilman was instrumental in securing and expanding the room in the courthouse, and has supported NCJW in all of its cutting-edge community service and advocacy. And to Missy Bielick, the director of all of our rooms, all of our rooms in the courts, and without whom this playroom would not be possible. To Patrick Dowd and to Cindy Stoltz, who today are living the dream. To Judge Clark, who is our biggest supporter. To former Executive Director Ruth Garfinkel. To Hillary Spatz, our past president, and our current president, Lori Gottlieb, without whose leadership and vision, we would not be here at all. Thank you all very much for this opportunity, and please stop and see the playroom. Thank you.
Now it is time to cut the ribbon. So I'm going to invite Judge Clark